And good morning. I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for joining us on Truth for Our Time or Tamara Scott Live, or we also come to you from Restoring Hope under that banner on American Family Radio. But we thank you for joining us today. It is October 1st as far as our taping date or doing the show live. And we may have some new listeners. I don't know. I met some new friends yesterday. A wonderful, wonderful day, a great opportunity. I had the pleasure, honor of traveling with 400 Korean and World War II veterans to the memorials in Washington, D.C. from Iowa. And it's just always such an exciting and a neat opportunity to meet these men and women who have fought in battle, who are American heroes, who have given their all. I mean, they have signed the line, dotted line on the check with their blood, essentially, and said, we will give all if necessary. And so thankful to talk with these men and women who came back, some of them with injuries. And actually some of the guardians as well are now veterans and have their own stories to tell, and some injuries as well. But just met wonderful people and so thankful to get to go along. I would invite you to talk to people, find out if you have some veterans in your area, what their stories are, what their missions were. I just sent Ryan, our producer, some photos, but I don't even know if he can get those on yet. We're still catching up. We didn't get in until 2 o'clock last night. But a couple of the people we met, an 102-year-old veteran, came on the trip. Could talk, I mean, just right there with us, able, alert, just 102 years old. We find that amazing. And his story, I'm sure, is amazing as well. They called him Frenchie. He led us in the Pledge of Allegiance the night before in an event in the honor of these veterans. And, of course, my friends that may be listening today, I don't know, Don and Ray, I don't know if you're watching or not, but thank you so much for making my trip so enjoyable yesterday. And also just to get to see the bus tour that we took to the dinner the night before and the high school football team from the East High School in the area, standing alongside the road, waving flags, cheering them on. To me, that was so exciting to see a coach, somebody who's paying attention, somebody who's training the next generation to pay honor, to pay respect where it's due. The Southeast Polk band that was playing when they arrived for the dinner, and the large flags hanging from fire ladders and trucks, and just such a great opportunity. There's so much going on in America right now. We have so many concerns on so many levels, and we should have these concerns on so many levels. We'll be talking about that today with our guest, Leo Hohmann. But to see people take time out and say thank you and show the respect for those who have saved us from some of those concerns of years past and decades past was truly quite amazing, and my honor, my pleasure, and I'm so thankful to get to go. So we thank Casey's, Hy-Vee, and Jeff and Bill Ballinger for having the vision, the determination to raise the funds and make that a possibility. That was just one flight. I know I've done other flights with them. I think they've done, I don't know how many, 6 or 7, maybe more, honor flights out of Iowa. And I think they said nearly 3,000 veterans have now gotten to see the memorials thanks to their efforts. So what a privilege and a pleasure, and I'm so thankful for that. This Sunday coming up, in Des Moines, in D.C., Huckabee will be doing a rally, Stand with Israel, 2 to 4 p.m. Of course, that's Eastern time out in D.C., Eastern time. And I don't know if it'll be online or not. I'm hopeful that it will be. But Stand with Israel rally, Huckabee, Penny Nance, Allison Howard, the Benham brothers, and Iowa CWA is taking a charter jet and flying out and joining them. And, of course, if you'd like to be part of that, you can always email the director at iowa.cwfa.org, director at iowa.cwfa.org. We're going to take a break right now, and as you know, when we come back, we'll be joining in with our listening audience from other radio networks, and so you'll hear us come in under the banner of Restoring Hope. But thank you for staying with us. We hope you'll stay tuned for this next segment. We'll be talking with Leo Hohmann. We've got concerns about Islam. As you know, CWA has been talking about it for, I would say a half a decade or more, and I was covering on radio. I think we were doing this in 2003, 2004 with Kirby Anderson. We've had Stephen Kirby. We've had several others. Brigitte Gabrielle, Amani Mustafa, Waleed Shabbat. We've talked to several people about Islam and what it truly is, and are there dangers with it? And yes, there are, if you truly understand what it's about. And now we're seeing in America, unfortunately, some of those issues that people said that's just far out, that just would never happen, and these people are just fear-mongering. Well, beheading in Oklahoma, and maybe we can talk about that with Leo when we come back. But we'll go to our break right now. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank Christians for America for coming alongside and helping us make it on the air in the first place, and Webcast One Studios, which powers us and offers us this airtime. So thank you. We'll be right back. Stay tuned after these messages. Tamara Scott with Truth for Our Time for today.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com today.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
And thanks for joining us. I am Tamara Scott. You are listening to Restoring Hope. We thank Mac for sharing his air with us and allowing us this half hour of his showtime. Mac usually comes to you with the Restoring Hope on an individual level, those who have suffered with addictions or recovering from addictions, lifestyle behaviors. We come at it usually from a little bit different angle of restoring hope in America, restoring hope in our neighborhoods, restoring hope in tackling the tough issues of the day so that we can have hope for tomorrow. If you're not willing to really talk about those tough issues, how do you dare deal with them and overcome them if you need to? So my thanks to Mac for that airtime, and my guest today is Leo Hohmann. Leo Hohmann is a journalist. He's written several articles over a variety of topics, and what I appreciate about Leo was his willingness to come out and, again, deal with the tough topics that people are maybe sometimes not able or used to tackling, and that's what we need to do to be able to do that. And WorldNet Daily, he has an article on WorldNet Daily called The Secret Weapon. The secret weapon to take, I've got to go back up to the top, it's quite an article, to take over America. Secret weapon to take over America revealed. So, Leo Hohmann, thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here, Tamara. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the fact that when you write, you're willing to take on those topics that are maybe not necessarily popular, or maybe you're taking on a topic that's not necessarily the popular angle of the article. And so thank you for doing that. So today I want to get right to this. I know you've written about Common Core, and I was hoping you could hang on with us a little bit later and talk about more of those other issues today, but let's go ahead and tackle this one. First off, you're and Leo, you know, I was out of town, out of pocket on some business, and so I'm coming through this article, just reading through it like most of the people who are getting it, and I just want you to take us through it, and we'll ask you questions along the way. But you're saying there's a secret weapon in taking America. What is it?
Sure. Tamara, I started looking into this a couple of months ago, and it kind of fell into my lap in a roundabout way. I was actually doing some stories on the open border, the surge at the southern border, where, you know, a lot of Central American unaccompanied children have been coming in waves back in, well, it started in the news back in August. We know it's been happening for longer than that. But it was, while I was reporting on some of those stories, I had put in one of my articles that Catholic Charities and Lutheran Social Services and some other faith-based nonprofit organizations were helping to resettle the children who were being given asylum in the United States. And it just so happened that one of the commenters on the story, you know how people leave their comments at the bottom of my stories, one of the commenters suggested that I find out how these faith-based organizations are funded, that it's not really charity, that they use mostly taxpayer government funds to do their so-called charity work and resettling the illegal immigrants who were coming across the border. So I started looking into that, and it turns out there were two different programs. There was the children seeking asylum, but the illegal, you know, people entering through the southern border, they were seeking asylum. But then there was this other program called the Refugee Resettlement Program. And unlike the situation at the southern border, this other program flies completely under the radar, and it's completely legal. There's nothing illegal about the way that these immigrants are entering the United States. And what I found was that these refugees are coming from mostly Middle Eastern countries, Muslim countries, and that they're being hand-selected by the United Nations and assigned to different host countries. And, of course, the United States, big-hearted people that we are, we accept more refugees from around the world than all of the other countries in the world combined. We bring in about 70 to 100,000 per year. And in recent years, especially since the Iraq War, but even into back as far as the early 1990s, most of these refugees have been coming from war-torn Middle Eastern countries that are dominated by Islam. A good example is Somalia. Somalia has been in civil war since 1992. The country is completely a broken country, no law and order. It's ruled by warlords who are completely, it's a country in chaos. We have brought in 100,000 Somalis since 1993. Many of them live in the Minneapolis area. A large population also lives in Maine, Columbus, Ohio, San Diego, California, even small towns like Shelbyville, Kentucky. The United States State Department takes these refugees and assigns them to different communities around the country. Well, that brings us to another question.
And I want to hold on right there. It's okay. So we're talking about Islam today, and I think it is something we need to be addressing. But you talked about something. If someone's coming from a war-torn country, there are all kinds of issues that they're going to be dealing with. There are scars, there are wounds, there's mistrust, sometimes mistrust of the government, sometimes mistrust of the police. And so beyond what we're going to talk about today, there are just concerns and issues that we should have as a country when we're bringing people in, because do they assimilate well when they're coming?
No, that was what I was actually going to get to next. Yeah, the UN picks these refugees, as I said, and then the United States Homeland Security Department is responsible for screening them. But And they say that these people receive the most intense screening of any type of immigrant. Of course, we know they don't screen the ones coming across the southern border at all. So if they're getting more scrutiny than that doesn't say much. but they say that these people are intensely screened. But our question is, how do you screen somebody from Somalia? This is, as I said, a broken country. There are no records. There's no law enforcement records. You don't. There's not even any birth certificates. You don't know who they're related to. You don't have any way of finding out if they have been supporting a terrorist organization or working for a terrorist organization. And this has already come back to bite us. There have been at least 25 Somalis from Minneapolis, St. Paul area who have gone off to fight for either ISIS or Al-Shabaab, which is another Al-Qaeda-affiliated terrorist organization. And this is only what the FBI will tell us. We have a feeling there's a lot more because these people are disappearing from their homes, and then we find out later that they died on a Syrian battlefield. But we don't know how many could have gone over there and fought and come back because they have American passports. So another example of people who obviously got through the screening process, the Tsarnaev brothers, Tamerlan Tsarnaev and his brother who carried out the Boston Marathon bombing, were brought into the United States from Chechnya, a Muslim country, through this UN refugee program. That was probably not reported by many news outlets.
And you have that. You have proof of that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so this program is being carried out in the name of, multiculturalism, diversity, compassion. But what we're ending up with is a program that costs billions of dollars. People who don't assimilate into American culture are difficult to screen and end up coming back, possibly they could even be good citizens when they came in, but then they get radicalized while they're attending a mosque here in the United States.
Okay, so let's go back to a little bit of this, and I want to talk about the mosques too, because in your article, and just so folks know, I'm putting that article on our Facebook page, Truth for Our Time, right now. And I'm talking with Leo Hohmann, Hohmann. His article's from WorldNet Daily, but I will put the link right on our Facebook page, Truth for Our Time. So, and there's several things in this article I want to talk about. I want more than 24 minutes of your time, Leo, I have to tell you. The
big topic.
It is a huge topic. We've been dealing with it for some time. Others are just now starting to awaken to it, as we've now had an honor killing in Oklahoma. Workplace violence. Either way, the result is the same, and lives are in danger. So we haven't even touched on, beyond the concern of violence here, what's happening to Americans. When you say they're coming in with this refugee program, it's not as if they're just coming in as immigrants. They are being ushered into a program and taken care of financially by tax dollars.
Absolutely. That's one of the ways that the State Department picks the communities to infuse these immigrants into is the availability of a generous social welfare network. So every state, by the way, has a refugee resettlement program, except for one, Wyoming. And I just written a story that has not been posted yet, but it will go up probably at least by this weekend, on Wyoming's situation. They're the only state that has not agreed to participate in this program. However, their governor, Matt Mead, has sent a letter to the head of the Federal Health and Human Services Refugee Resettlement Program asking for information because he's interested in joining the program.
So if I put on my Facebook, on Truth for Our Time, Leo Hohmann reveals stealth jihad with thousands of Muslims being brought into the U.S. under a refugee resettlement program, receiving welfare, Medicaid, other taxpayer monies while refusing to assimilate to American culture. That's not an understatement?
No. I mean, there are some examples of surely Somalis or Iraqis who have assimilated. There's some success stories, no doubt. But as we know, in the 21st century, it doesn't take many to destroy Even if the screening process caught 90% of what they should catch, 10% gets through, we could have another attack on the homeland of the United States.
And let's not forget, I mean, we're not just talking, and Michelle Malkin, I think, in an article in the Imprimis, IMPRIMIS, a little newsletter that comes out of Hillsdale College, this was years ago, Leo, wrote that those who were involved in the 9/11 situation, the 9/11 terrorist attack, many of them were brought in to the U.S. These were not outsiders. These were people who were brought into the U.S. under the immigration and under, I don't know if it was under a resettlement program, but certainly were already part of the U.S. through the immigration process. So there's a real danger here we need to be aware of.
There's been there's been roughly 2 million Middle Eastern Muslims imported into the United States since 1992. And that's just through the refugee program. Others come in through other programs. There's several different programs that can allow for this type of immigration into the United States. But the danger is undeniable, like I said. And why we would want to even risk that at this point in history when there's a problem with radical Islam around the world, those are questions that our officials don't seem interested in answering.
So just in terms of the population, I'm taking this out of your article, you're talking about people with a much higher birth rate than the native peoples. You're talking about a religion that sanctions polygamy, so this means the Muslim community is going to expand exponentially compared to the other communities, said Spencer. Is this Robert Spencer you're quoting?
Yes, Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch, correct.
Okay, and David Horowitz as well from Freedom, for David Horowitz from Freedom Center. But this is not about the numbers. It's about a religion that has intentions to take over the state. Can you explain this a little bit? And we've talked about this. We've been talking about this issue in the early part of 2000.
Yeah, this is the difficulty that we conservative Christians have in this realm, Tamara, because if you're not listening carefully, or if you come to this story from a different worldview, it can sound like we're being racist or somehow bigoted. But my concern is with Islam, if it were in a religion, would be nil. I have no concerns about any religion. People, as you know, in the United States have freedom to worship however they want or to not worship at all. But there's an aspect, a component of Islam that it seems like our U.S. State Department and obviously the United Nations is not looking at, and that is the political aspect of Islam. It's throughout the Quran that the Muslim populations are to not deal with the infidel in the same way that they deal with their own people. If they're living in a country that is not a Muslim country, they subscribe to a philosophy called taqiyya, which is, you're supposed to not be completely forthright with the infidel, make it sound like you're peaceful, don't tell exactly the truth of what you really believe until you get a majority. Then a different set of laws kicks in, which we know is Sharia law. And the problem is actually more advanced in Europe than it is in the United States. But we're, maybe a generation or two behind Europe in terms of this cultural divide. And
so what percentage of the population would you say we are at with Muslims right now?
It's anywhere from 1% to 2%, depending on the source that you look at in America, whereas Europe is an average of 6 or 7%. And
the danger...
You have to look at various cities,
yes,
not just the overall, where, in Europe you have cities like, Amsterdam, Antwerp, Paris, where you have sections of the cities that have become completely Muslim. They set up enclaves. They don't assimilate. Police won't even go into these enclaves. And if you're Christian or Jewish and wander into one of these Muslim areas, it's very unsafe. They've burned down mosques. They've burned down churches. Christians have been killed. And Sharia law rules.
Right. We call those no-go zones.
No-go zones.
And there are 700 of them. Which is it in France? I'm not sure. There are 700.
France is the most Muslim-dominated country in Europe, and it has and get this, its Muslim population is 5 to 10%. So what does that tell you? It doesn't take 50% before the domination starts.
Because of their tactics, because of what...
Tactics are very aggressive, yes. In fact, we have seen, it was in one of my articles, and this has been reported by others, in April of this year, the mayor of Minneapolis, female mayor, I don't recall her name offhand, but she showed up to a meeting with her local Muslim community dressed in a hijab, the Muslim veil over her face. This is a female Western non-Muslim woman bowing, kowtowing to her Muslim constituents in that way.
And we know politicians, and they're always trying to do these things, to reach out to communities, to tell them, why they understand their views and why they should vote for them. But I'm guessing here that it's out of ignorance, that someone doesn't understand what's going on.
Michelle Bachmann is a very good source on this because she represents a large portion of that area of Minnesota in the U.S. House of Representatives. And in one of my stories, she outlined a lot of different, just little things that the Muslim community has been able to get into, has been able to get out of local politicians in terms of favorable treatment. Little things like installing foot baths at local universities and colleges, because that's one of the Muslim rituals, is you wash your feet before certain prayer times. And, it's like, and this is in Minnesota. This is in our country. And this is in a country that has a 1 to 2% Muslim population.
This is a state just north of where this studio is located, so it's very close to home. And let's just understand this. We are now forcing cemeteries and parks, memorials, to take down crosses that have been there for years, who have been part of the Christian heritage of this nation, denying that freedom of religion, denying that just Christian heritage, Christian history, accurate history, and now we're offering this type of accommodation to. The problem is, Leo, is that we call it a religion, but you and I both know it's a political system and a military system, not just a religion. And so that's part of the danger. And I'm so thrilled that you brought up Michelle Bachmann. Thank you, because I'm good. Here is a politician, a stateswoman, if you will, who understands the issues, who, like you, Leo, is willing to come out and talk about them no matter how uncomfortable, and tell the truth. And she has been ridiculed so often.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know if you remember, it was not very long before she came out and she said, I want to know about the infiltration into the government. Who has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood? She wasn't discriminating. She was saying, who has ties to the Muslim Brotherhood, who is in high places in our government, and was right away ridiculed, if not demanded, with an apology. And I think, check me out on that, but I think that was not too long before Benghazi. And we know...
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago, right.
But I think it was just weeks before Benghazi took place.
Yeah.
And so you brought her up, thank you, because here she is from Minnesota. She is terrific on these issues as well, talking about the Islamic beliefs and the Muslim Brotherhood. This is in your article, and again, it's WorldNet Daily article. But Leo, if some people want to find you, where else can they find your articles located?
WorldNet Daily right now is my primary outlet. Just, I guess, some personal information about myself. I was a newspaper journalist for 27, 28 years, working at several suburban daily newspapers, and I made it till 51 years old, and finally I got caught up in a round of layoffs here at the Marietta Daily Journal just outside of Atlanta. This was in April of this year. April 23rd was the day. I'll never forget it, when I was called into the office and told that my services would no longer be needed. And they gave my job to my assistant editor at 1/3 of the pay. And I was just broken. I was a broken man, and because I'd never gone a day in my life without a job. And here I was, 51 years old, and unemployed with no warning whatsoever, no time to prepare for it. And but it's just amazing how God used that, because the very next day I started sending off resumes, and I started sending resumes to online news organizations that I personally enjoyed, and one of them was WorldNet Daily, and I had received a response back like a day or two later saying, we don't have any openings, but we're always in need of good freelance writers, and, you know, if you would like to try that, you know, we would like to give you an opportunity. And so I started writing for them in May on a freelance basis, maybe an article or two a week. And as you know, a lot of them initially were on Common Core and that issue. And then I started writing about other things. And I'd say within a month and a half, I received an email out of the blue from the CEO and founder of WorldNet Daily, Joseph Farah, saying, we really like your work, and we'd like to talk to you about, you know, some other opportunities. And he called me, and you know, he said he still didn't have any openings, but he just wanted to let me know that they liked my work. And you know that 2 weeks later he had an opening and called me, and I've been hired full-time and working with them ever since.
I'm not surprised one bit. Joseph Farah, I had the opportunity to travel to Israel with he and his wife in January of 2013. That was a wonderful opportunity as well. Leo Hohmann, you hear the music. We're running out of time. Leo, you can't stay for the next segment. Is that correct?
That's correct. I need to get back to work here with WND.
All right. We'd like to have you. We'll have you back. We'll talk more about this.
Back.
The article is excellent. I would invite you to go and look at it. I've got it on Truth for Our Time Facebook page. You can find it at WorldNet Daily. Leo Hohmann, Hohmann, has been the guest. Do not be discouraged. Go out, talk to your politicians. Right now is election cycle time. It's time to ask them the tough questions. Make sure they get what's going on and that they'll do what they can to stop these things. And I want to thank Christians for America, ChristiansForAmerica.com, for coming alongside with us. And you can partner with them as well to get more truth out into your neighborhoods and to help people understand what's actually happening around them. We've got to bring you the truth before we can next bring you the help in dealing with these situations. But I am Tamara Scott. Thank you for traveling this with me, and we will continue to bring you more truth. Be encouraged and never be complacent.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
And thanks for staying with us. We are going to do an abbreviated show today, but I just wanted to come back and close up some things for you. Leo Hohmann, Hohmann, was my guest today. We were talking about Islam. I would invite you to go and read that article. There's no reason to walk in fear. As Christians, we walk in faith, and we need to understand that the Bible tells us we've been made more than conquerors. But there's no reason to be foolish either. And we need to be aware of the situation. We need to take proper action. We need to be reasonable. The Bible talks about counting the cost. And we need to be diligent as far as who's coming into our borders, why. And of course, we just barely tapped into it there. The numbers that are coming through these borders under the refugee resettlement program, coming into our country at your tax dollar expense. Medicaid, food stamps, welfare, and Leo points out in his article, we didn't have time to talk about all of it, is that even if they have jobs, many of them are unskilled labor, and so the job is not paying a great deal, and so they are still on food stamps or Medicaid. So you're still subsidizing there. What we also didn't talk about was in the Islamic belief, the Muslim belief, there are several spouses. And we'll have to have Dr. Stephen Kirby, a local resident who's written several books now on Islam and understanding what the Islam religion is about, that if you have several wives, and of course then there is an issue of single women often raising their kids, essentially, even though they may be married, now we're hearing stories of them being on Medicaid, food stamps, your tax dollars as well. So one more reason I've talked to you about on this show many, many times, there's not a separation of church and state in your Constitution. I would invite you to look through it, read it. There is not a separation of church and state in your Constitution, okay? But there is in the Bible. When the Bible talks about government's role, it's uphold the good, punish the bad. That is it. Anything else is not ordained by God for government. And when government tries to do it, it's inefficient. We've seen fraud. It just can't be done timely and well. If you have someone in your small community or your church congregation who is widowed, who needs help, you know who they are. You can get them help. But by the time the government figures it out and the right forms are filled out and gotten to the right bureaucratic department or branch, it's often too late to be of help. It will not work well. Beyond that, you and I both know when people are in these situations, sometimes it's a lifestyle behavior that puts someone at a disadvantaged state. Again, you locally at church can hold people accountable. You can help people correct lifestyle situations that are not profitable or productive. Again, government can't. They just can't, nor do we want them to. We don't want government coming in and telling us what we can and can't do, or what's healthy, what's not healthy, or what our faith should or shouldn't be. But a charity, absolutely. That's what God called the charity to do. There's a difference between a pastor's heart and a president's heart. And so when you're listening to candidates, Hear what they're having to say. But you heard Leo talk about it as well. There's a justice that has to happen. We can't have unjustified mercy and try to be doing things through the government. That should be done through the church. The private individual, the Christian, is called to help those in need, to care for the poor, to care for the sick. Not the taxpayer, but the tither. There's a difference in those two roles. What should be done with the tithing dollar is not what can be done with a tax dollar. And too often now people are setting back and not helping out because they think that their taxes are covering it, that their taxes are doing it, or because we're now paying somewhat upwards of 40% of our income into taxation, which is going to those situations. Wouldn't it be better if you decided how to spend your money, if you got to keep more of your money, and you decided which charities you would help, which causes you would help? That needs to be done with your tithing dollar or your private dollar, not your taxation dollar. And here's another reason why as Christians. As Christians, we believe that God has told us He will bless us when we're generous. It's in Proverbs that He will refresh those who have refreshed others. So we believe He'll bless those who are generous, charitable. We also believe He'll correct those who are not. If it's a tax situation, you're coerced. Whether you can or can't afford it, your taxes on a property, your taxes on various regulations, those are all taxations. Licensing, those are taxations. You're coerced. You lose that opportunity to be blessed or corrected. But if it's a private dollar, if it's a tithe dollar, God can bless you for your generosity. He can correct you when you're not. So there's one more reason. So I hope that this kind of makes sense for some of you who have a faith. Those of you who don't have a faith, even more, you should stand with us on this. Those who fuss about separation of church and state, why on earth would you want the government doing the church's business at your expense? If God's called the church and the private individual, the Christian, to take care of the health, well, the welfare needs, the health issues, care for the sick, the poor, the needy, why would you want the government forcing you to pay for what God's called the church to do? The citizen has a different role. It's uphold good, punish bad. Promote good behavior, promote behavior that's productive for your society. Limit, punish behavior that's unhealthy, that has health risks, that creates problems for your society. It's as simple as that. Now, I wasn't planning on getting into that, Ryan. I told you we were just going to come back, do an abbreviated show, and be done with it. But I think it's fitting in today and what we have, and there may be those who want to be out there and criticize. And again, I'll just say to you, listen very carefully who you listen to. Be very careful and find out for yourself. It's to the point where we just simply can't take somebody else's word anymore. Listen to the candidates yourself. Listen to pastors yourself. Listen to leaders in your community, people who are being sought after for influential decision making. Decide for yourself. And this is something I think we've destroyed in our education system. We now believe that we have to have a license or a degree, or somebody has to have the okay to talk about an issue, has to have a credential. God gave you all the ability to discern. The Bible tells you if you ask for wisdom, He'll give it to you in plenty. He tells you that in James. So it's high time that you start looking into things for yourself. You're accountable. You'll be responsible for yourself on Judgment Day. And so it's high time that we start looking, discerning for on our own, and quit listening to what everybody else is saying. You're going to have elections this fall, and we often hear, but so-and-so can't win. Electability is your responsibility. If you think somebody's good, you better get out and work for them all you can and make sure you do everything that they can win. Make sure it's doable that they do win. If not, you're responsible for your inaction, your non-action. And when you do take action, you're not responsible for others' inaction or reaction. They are. And I don't know if it's Einstein, Ryan, who said that, if you don't want to be criticized, don't do anything. Because as long as you're doing something, somebody's going to criticize you. And so I would invite you, after traveling with these veterans, again, it just brings back what a character trait they have. They never fussed. I really noticed this with the World War II and some of the Korean veterans. They don't fuss about what they have. They don't fuss about the difficulty of the situation or all the reasons why they can't. They just do. They just made it happen. They somehow created. They found another way. They plunged through, and they brought us victory when it never looked like it was possible. And so I'll just bring that back to all of you. Quit waiting for somebody else to determine your future. Quit waiting for somebody else to, Ryan, as I'm saying this, it's coming right back at me, right? Quit waiting for somebody else to tell you what you can and can't do. God's given you all callings, talents, trainings. Go out and make it happen. And the future rests on us, nobody else. And we will continue to bring you good information on this show. And if you'd like to partner with us, we could certainly use your help in that as well. We thank ChristiansForAmerica.com for partnering with us. And we thank Webcast One Live for allowing us to use their studio. And if you've ever got guest ideas, you can send those to us as well. We want to be involved and know what's on your radar and what's concerning to you. We continue to talk about Common Core being an issue. Right now is a great time to talk to your politicians about Common Core. The APUSH, the American Advanced Placement of U.S. History Exams. We don't want inaccurate history being taught to our kids, and it is. That's probably one of the greatest threats to America is kids coming out of the kindergarten through college system not even knowing the truth, the tenets behind what made America strong. Common Core, we're now seeing the youth survey, the Iowa Youth Survey, come back up in Iowa. And I was doing stories on that. Gosh, boy, I'm not sure if it was even before 2000. So this is something that comes to 6th, 8th, and 11th graders in Iowa. When we talked about it years ago, and I've not looked into the new one that's coming out now, but years ago they were asking 6th graders, not if you've ever thought about suicide, but when you thought about suicide, have you thought about how you'd kill yourself? That's what they're asking 6th graders. Not if, but it's not bad enough to even bring it into their thought processes, but to say, but how would you do it? 6th graders. And then we wonder why our kids are having behavior issues, why they're struggling, why they don't want to go to school. If your child's saying to you, I don't want to go to school, I beg you as a parent to please listen. And if you've had any inclination whatsoever to pull your child out of public school, I'd ask you to pray about it and consider what's the best schooling for your child. There are so many other alternatives out there now, so many other programs. So this is a show about improving your future, improving your life, and improving your community by making things right in your own house, in your own heart. Things will be better at the State House, in the courthouse, the schoolhouse, when we get those things corrected. So with that, we're going to close today, and I thank you for being here. It was my pleasure to travel to Washington, D.C. with the honor flight and to honor those who have given so much for our country, even the Guardians, who are now younger veterans, the Iraqi and Afghanistani veterans, and we just thank anyone who serves in the military who's honored us with their time. We thank their families as well, because we know when one serves, the whole family sacrifices. And so I'm going to ask each of you, I don't know what your role is out there. I don't know how you're watching this, when you're seeing this, but God has given you a purpose. He's given you gifts. He's given you talents. You have yearnings to set out and make things correct. If you're frustrated about something, start correcting those. Start at a small step. Make a statement. Do something. Talk to somebody about making a difference. Post something on your Facebook page. Start the revolution with yourself. But don't wait for somebody else. And it's time. The time is now. So I'm going to encourage you to be encouraged. Find something. Philippians tells you to think on these things that are positive, uplifting. If you've not read your word, try it. Proverbs, 31 chapters, 31 days, and many, many months. It's a great start. 1 chapter a day. Light reading, not too much for you. Start getting some good training. Start reading books. We have several authors. We can give you ideas on our Facebook page, Truth for Our Time. You can also find us at Stop Common Core Facebook page, and you can find me on Facebook as well. And Ryan Northfield, thank you so much for what you do to make us successful each Wednesday. We'll be back next Wednesday, 10 o'clock, and we'll be talking about, there's a new no casino, no gambling group as well. And I think Van Harden we'll be talking with Van Harden, who's written a book called The Purple Wedge, which had an interesting twist to it. It wasn't what I thought it would be about. It wasn't politics. And so we think of the red state, blue state, purple state, and it's not politics, but we're talking to Van about that book. So I am Tamara Scott. We'll be right back. We'll be back next week, 10 a.m. And thank you for staying tuned with us today. Be encouraged and never be complacent.